Hey y'all. So the second piece that I'm going to talk about is the Audre Lorde uses the erotic. And can I first start off by saying, hell yeah, oh my God, this piece was awesome. I want to write it out on like sacred paper and like paste it on my wall. I was so moved by it. And because because this is a more kind of esoteric, at least for me, it feels more esoteric, emotional. Um, I'm not gonna go kind of step by step as I did last time. What I want to do is I want to read to you the pieces that stuck out and really resonated for me, and then to kind of just share what came up, and then I'll just leave you with the questions at the end. But it's really hard to come up with specific questions for this piece because it's so intimate, it's so personal. It was hard to come up, I feel like all you got to do is read it and it's going to light something up within you. So yeah. Okay. So Audre Lorde shares, in order to perpetuate itself, every oppression must corrupt or distort those various sources of power within the culture of the oppressed that can provide energy for change. For women, this has meant a suppression of the erotic as a considered source of power and information within our lives. There are frequent attempts to equate pornography and eroticism, two diametrically opposed uses of the sexual. Because of these attempts, it has become fashionable to separate the spiritual, which she has psychic and emotional, from the political, to see them as contradictory or antithetical. In the same way, we have attempted to separate the spiritual and the erotic, thereby reducing the spiritual to a world of flattened affect, a world of the ascetic who aspires to feel nothing. So I just want to stop right there. What do you view as the erotic? Erotic living. What is erotic living? Sorry, my dog's trying to jump at the cat. What is BD? Sorry. What is the erotic versus sexuality? I think that's an important distinction to make early on. And she gives an example, a definition, but in my opinion, it's really vague. So I just want to share with you my definition of the erotic. I view the erotic as what ties the body and the spirit together. The erotic is what we feel when we're connected with something bigger than ourselves, whether it be engaging with a lover or whether it be experiencing, I think we all had this, especially in California, because the fruit here is just so amazing. But I can literally remember the first time I had an heirloom tomato in California. It was so flavorful. It was like the world just ceased except for whatever I felt in my mouth and like the sun in my face. And it was a very sensual time. And in that same energy, I think it's the same feeling that we get when we walk outside. And then for those few moments, we're only aware of the sensation of being so small, right? Or like being by the ocean and knowing how short our life is and how small we are compared to the greater existence. Like that is eroticism. That is the use of our senses of this body to feel something bigger than ourselves. So that's what I think the erotic is. If you think differently, please share. And then the other thing that I want to touch upon is she talks about the separation between the spiritual and the political. In my personal experience in the Bay Area, that is incredibly true. You have like spiritual spaces in the Bay, predominantly white spiritual spaces, in terms of, I guess, like quantity around here, especially with like yogic and Vedic sciences, where they only want to talk about soul stuff, where stuff like compassion and love and empathy and forgiveness, those are all soul things. But then if you want to talk about gender or homosexuality or being differently abled or racism, sexism, right? All those things, there, at least in my experience, there's not a lot of room to share those in the greater community because those are issues of the body. Like there's something called spiritual bypass, where in efforts to avoid uncomfortable sensations, we jump to being like, oh, well, that's that's lower vibration. That's body stuff. I'm already enlightened. I'm already up here, right? Or like you can use spiritual bypass actually for to try to like cover up racism. Like I've heard folks say, oh well, rap is low vibration, so I'm a sattvic person, I'm a holy person, so therefore I don't listen to rap. Being like, it's a pretty big statement. Anyways, I've heard that, and it's freaking crazy. But I'm digressing a little bit. But that's an example of the spiritual community that I've come across. And then in terms of political, so most of the spaces that I've done with political work were queer women of color led spaces. And even though a lot of ethnic culture is rooted in spiritual or religious basis, that's for a lot of folk, especially within my own community, like anything talking about the church or religion is really touchy, right? And because there's so much oppression wrapped up in history of religion. So when we go to political spaces, if it's not a specific religious space, I feel like there's not room to talk about spiritual things, because it's kind of like, how can you talk about things of soul? Like, how can you talk about like compassion when someone's not even being able to like have a meal every day or a safe place to stay, or the just priorities aren't met. And so then there's this dichotomy, right, between the two spaces. And Stacey Haynes, she's a somatics like not guru, she's a somatics teacher, profound, inspirational, huge person in the Bay. And she actually came and spoke last weekend at the conference that we had for a program, Spiritual Responses to Gender-Based Violence. And she had an amazing diagram that showed the dichotomy, right, between spiritual and the political, or spiritual and the individual. And then she showed all the other realms of being that exist, from us as an individual to through community, through society, through culture and spirituality. Anyways, it was brilliant. So May's going to attach that to this presentation, so y'all should take a look at that. Okay, to move on. To refuse to be conscious of what we are feeling at any time, however comfortable that might seem, is to deny a large part of the experience and to allow ourselves to be reduced to the pornographic, the abused, and the absurd. Recognizing the power of the erotic within our lives can give us the energy to pursue genuine change within our world, rather than merely settling for a shift of characters in the same weary drama. For the bridge which connects them is formed by the erotic, the sensual, those physical, emotional, and psychic expressions of what is deepest and strongest and richest within each of us, being shared, the passions of love in its deepest meanings. So, I don't know quite how to frame these questions, but what I wanted to ask is, how do you feel the erotic plays a role in social justice movements? How do you feel the erotic plays a role in working with women, especially in a society where we're stuck between virgin and whore, right? And we're trying to be we're supposed to be a manifestation of both in all the right times. How do we talk about the erotic when so much of women's space is talking about sexual violation and disempowerment? I'm still struggling to form these questions, but this is so deep. And the erotic also, I think, is a way to describe that instinctual connection that we have when we are trying to heal, when we're trying to create, when we're trying to unify in community. There's something that happens in female space. I'm not saying like, I'm not talking about in a cisgendered women way, but I'm talking about women's space where it's not set up for competition and oppression. I'm kind of losing myself. I'm actually fading. But anyways, this piece really touched me, and I hope that we can talk about this when we meet on Zoom. And yeah, thank you all for your patience. I just wanted to try a different approach with the video. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. All right, take care. Bye.